Welcome to Anticipating Christ's Return YouTube channel, a place where we can gather together and joyfully anticipate the return of our Lord. I hope you enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. Today, I'm talking to Caitlin Hawker, and she has a new channel called Anticipating Christ's Return. She's one of the ones that responded to my call out for sisters to start YouTube channels, and she is already doing really good, even before doing this interview. Uh, she is essentially, as the name implies, it's a channel about the second coming, and she's put out a lot of content already, and it seems like there's a lot of interest. And so, Caitlin, like, what made you want to do this channel and what made you want to talk about the second coming?
All right. Well, I mean, first of all, we've talked before this, but I'm a big fan. But yeah, I've been listening to your channel. I think there was a lot of excitement around the second coming when President Nelson became prophet. But I am like an old soul, and I feel like I was in young women's and being like, so the second coming, like, and everyone else is like, oh no, that's scary. I'm like, no, it's not. It's exciting. It's Jesus Christ is coming back. And so for me, that's my goal. And as my name of the channel implies, is I am anticipating it. And it's like President Nelson said, with that joyful anticipation for the coming days. And I know that there are scary times associated with the second coming, but I think it's important to remember that we're anticipating Christ's return. It's Jesus Christ that's going to be coming back to the earth, and it's not all the doom and gloom. It's joyful.
So you're more like me, like more positive. Like it is the great and dreadful day of the Lord, but for the righteous, and we should all be striving to be righteous, it'll be the great day of the
The
Lord.
great day. Yes, absolutely. And that's another thing about my channel is um I want to help people feel prepared spiritually. And so I think that's a big thing, is I want people to feel the great day of the Lord and that like they are prepared to meet their maker.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when I started my channel, I didn't intend or I didn't imagine that it would get this far. And I just wanted to like, back then, there weren't like a whole lot of second coming channels. There were like a couple. And so what prompted me to do my channel is I had some stuff that I wanted to share that I didn't think was really being talked about. Have you felt the same way? Are there like unique things that you've been wanting to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love how every general conference, and I know this is the same for you, but I feel like every general conference, we are just gifted so much more knowledge,
Yeah.
and it's just adding upon. And I think that's what I love to focus on. And I'll admit, since starting this channel, I've kind of allowed comments to dictate where I go, which is okay, but last night as I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I just need to stick to what my main objective was, and I can dive into what people are wanting to hear, right? Because this is also for them, but I want to be true to what I wanted to do, and that is talking about all the revelation that we are receiving now from current prophets as well as ancient prophets, of course.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know. With my channel, like I want people to understand, like I put out a lot of videos, but it's because like it's not just my channel. It is for all of you, but it's also for me. And there's like a lot of stuff that I want to research. I have this unique opportunity to where I have all this time to like really dig into it. And then once I find things, I want to share it. And so, yeah, sometimes you come across things that maybe aren't so exciting to everybody, but I think you have to get a whole picture. But I think it's really important, like you said, to focus on what current prophets and apostles are saying because they are saying so much. Um, what are some of the more recent things that they've said that has caught your attention? Like, is there any like particular statement by President Nelson or like things that have like really stuck out to you?
everything President Nelson says just gets me so excited.
Yeah.
I'm such a nerd. I'm not calling you a nerd, but I feel very connected because I'm the same way. I love to study. A few years ago, I was, I study scriptures for fun. Like my husband kind of makes fun of me. He's like, "Oh, she's pulling out her stuff. Like I've got piles of books everywhere. But so I do love to study and I just feast on the words. But yeah, I mean, everything President Nelson says, basically, I my eyes were opened when he talked about Israel means to let God prevail. That was like, of course, because before the gathering of Israel seemed like, well, what if people don't want to hear the message of the church? But we're gathering in people who are prepared and who are willing to let God prevail in their life. And obviously, people have their agency, right? Um, Elder Holland, like my goodness, right? His last general conference talk of,
Yeah.
what was the title of it, of
Motions of a Hidden Fire.
Motions of a Hidden Fire, and you're like, okay, all right, let's go with this. And then he just continues, right? He tells us of, I mean, basically a near-death experience. He didn't come out and like say I had a near-death experience, but he says he was on the edge of eternity. And I think there was a lot there that if we study and if we have the eyes to see and ears to hear, we'll receive more. And just the urgency. Elder Holland has always been an urgent kind of guy, kind of apostle. And I'm like, if he needs to have more urgency in his message and in his preaching of the gospel, then we for sure do.
Yeah.
And then his Instagram post where he's like, oh yeah, by the way, like there's a lot more coming. So just study
Yeah.
what we have.
I've noted before, there's a number of times I could probably do a video about this by itself, but there's a lot of times that he's dropped breadcrumbs. I
Oh
think
yeah.
he kind of likes to do it from time to time. He does it in inappropriate ways. At this point, like I said, I've said many times on the channel, with the Kirtland Temple coming back into the church, I wouldn't be surprised at anything at this point. And but yeah, when you have an apostle that basically almost died and seems to have had a near-death experience, and then he comes back, he's made the first speaker of this general conference, and he says that it's urgent that we be recognized by Christ when he comes as his. I think we should all probably pay attention to that and feel that urgency that he's talking about for sure.
Yes. In fact, I have some notes that I wanted to share today. But yeah, so he says, I bear witness then that when Christ comes, he needs to recognize us, not as nominal members on a faded baptismal record, but as thoroughly committed, faithfully believing, covenant-keeping disciples. This is an urgent matter for all of us, lest we ever hear with devastating regret, quote, I never knew you, or as Joseph Smith said, you never knew me. And so I guess, as you were saying, some topics might be boring, and we are on YouTube and it's an entertainment platform, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard you want people to watch because you're sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it's not going to be for everyone, but it's also, I've felt as I've done this, I'm not trying to entertain people. I'm trying to bring them closer to Christ. And it's an urgent matter, he says. We need to be thoroughly committed, faithfully believing, covenant keeping disciples. And it's an urgent matter. And so that is, I mean, that sums up what I want this channel to be is, yeah, we are preparing for the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. And I cannot wait for that day. And how can we prepare? How can we take what the prophets and apostles and the scriptures, specifically the Book of Mormon, but all scriptures, how can we take that and do the most good with it and prepare not only ourselves but others?
Well, what would you say to people that think that we're not even close? It's still at least 50 years away, 100 years away. It's not going to be in our lifetime. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, Jared, let me just like step on to my soapbox for a second. I am very close to my sister. We're best friends, and she is one of those people. She's like, oh, here Caitlin goes again, talking about the second coming. Um, Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a prophet or I don't know when he's coming. However, um, I can't imagine it to be that long, which then again, people in history couldn't imagine it to be that long either. But either way, regardless of if it comes tomorrow, if he comes tomorrow, or he comes in 50 years to, I don't know, however many years, right? I need to be prepared today because I don't know if I'm going to meet him sooner. We never know when our time
Yeah.
comes to an end. And I think Elder Holland says that, right? Of we never know when we're going to be called. And even President Nelson has said the day is coming when I'm going to have to give my report to the past prophets. And I think that was in the Hope of Israel talk.
Yep.
Um, but how he says, I don't want them to be upset with me because I wasn't urgent enough with the members of the church. And I just think that urgency, the fact that the prophet has been urgent for years now, and then Elder Holland came and said, this is an urgent matter. We have to be prepared. We're seeing signs in everywhere. I mean, everywhere you look, it's a sign of the time, whether or not it's like being checked off a checklist or it's supposed to turn our hearts to Christ. I did a video early on about that, of how, when we see these eclipses or when we see these auroras or whatever we're seeing, some people write it off and say it's not a sign of the time, right? Some people do.
Oh yeah.
And I think if it turns your heart to Jesus Christ, then that's the point of these signs and times. It's not a checklist, and it's not to say, okay, it has to go in this order in order to be a sign of the time. I think Jesus Christ wants our hearts to turn to him and to prepare for him. And so him and Heavenly Father, they're giving us these signs so that our hearts will be softened to receive them. And so, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be 50 years down the road. I hope it's sooner. But I'm preparing today as if it's tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, in these signs, it seems like all these signs that are taking place are screaming urgency. It's like our church leaders are screaming urgency, and so are the signs. Like right now, like President Nelson's presidency and everything that's taken place, everything that's been said, it doesn't really compare to previous presidencies. Like definitely
Mhm.
not President Monson's, President Hinckley. I was like a teenager during that time, and there were a lot of really interesting things going on. And I did have the second coming on the mind with all the temples being built and stuff like that.
And
But
9/11, his talk with 9/11, how he
yeah,
comes up, you know.
but I feel like President Nelson's presidency has been even more urgent. Like
Yeah.
he talks about the second coming all the time. And then this last general conference, I can't understate just how much warning I felt there was in it, and how much they were talking about us needing to be in the temple for protection. President Holland's talk like set the tone for the entire conference, and there's just so much. Now, you were in Layton, Utah, right?
Yes, I am.
Did you get to see the aurora?
No, because I'm an old lady. I feel like an old lady and I cannot stay up past 10.
Oh yeah, well that'd be a problem for
I
that,
know.
but it's pretty
I've
incredible.
seen pictures.
Yeah, I was surprised at just how many people took pictures of it, because I don't know about your social media feeds, but like mine were just like flooded with aurora images. And I really wish I knew like what the viewership was of of everyone that saw the aurora, because I think like it probably exceeded like the Super Bowl. It was like everywhere. Everybody was
Yeah,
talking about it.
everyone. And it's funny. So I have this family that I dog sit for every once in a while, and they dropped off their dogs so that they could go to a rural area and see the aurora better.
Oh
So
wow.
people were like traveling to see it and to witness it. And I just think, you know, it's cool that the world is, I mean, the world, my small world on Facebook, people that they're searching out these signs, they're searching out these witnesses of God in the heavens. That's what I think it is. I think these things that happen are signs that God is coming. I don't know if you remember last year, there was some weird thing where there was also an aurora. Do you remember that?
Last year?
Yes.
No, I don't, but tell me about it. It may ring a bell.
So I don't remember what happened. All I do remember is that the night it happened, my this is a lot of this is TMI, by the way. So if you guys don't want to know TMI, then plug your ears for 5 seconds. But I was pregnant last year, and that night there was an aurora, and I didn't know until the next morning when I saw everyone's pictures of like, whoa, look at these, look at this, the aurora or the northern lights or whatever they called it, right? But tons of people posted about it. My water broke that night, and I'm a labor and delivery nurse normally, and I know that like when atmosphere changes, then so many people's water break. Like when there's a giant storm or a thunderstorm or whatever, people always come in labor because their water breaks, just because like the pressure change, right? Anyway, my water broke, and I was just like, that is so weird. So, and it's also interesting. This is a side note. Maybe it's not interesting to other people, but my daughter, I was basically told like, hey, you're gonna have a baby, which I didn't really want at the time. Not that I didn't want her. I did want her. I just wasn't ready yet. But I was basically told, hey, you need to have a baby. It's gonna be a daughter. Name her Elsie. And when I looked up Elsie, because I'm into knowing what meanings of names are, and it just felt different, right? I've never had a name come to me like that. We've always picked. Her name means oathed or covenanted with God.
Oh, wow.
And it felt so urgent that she needed to be here. And then I had her 6 weeks early. My water broke the night of the aurora, like it was just, it was just so weird to me. And I just know that these spirits are needing to come to earth because I believe that the time is short, right? These
Yeah.
spirits need bodies.
That is such an interesting idea. Like, if any of you were pregnant and the aurora or maybe the storms that pass through the Midwest, if any of that like hastened your birth, please let me know. Put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Um, but either way, that's like really interesting to think about, you know.
Yeah.
It's been a really crazy couple weeks. I did that video about how like these tornadoes, this tornado outbreak, and I have to go back and check and see if like it's still on a streak. But every day since that first tornado in Utah, the land spout in by daybreak,
Right.
um, it went for at least 2 weeks straight, like every day having a tornado. That's weird. And then
Yeah.
this aurora thing, it's weird.
Yeah.
And then the eclipse, with like everything that we know about the three eclipses, but especially this eclipse going over the Kirtland Temple after a month after we purchase it, it's weird.
Yes.
Maybe weird's not the right, probably meant to be. These are signs. We should not ignore
It's
these things.
well, and it's interesting because God knew that the Kirtland Temple was going to be passed into I mean, the church, obviously,
Mhm.
the stewardship of the church. And God knew that that was going to happen. And it's a sign for those who are willing to see it as a sign, I think.
Yeah, I feel
Plus,
like those are those two things can only be controlled by God. The purchase of the Kirtland Temple, because it felt so unlikely that it would ever happen. You
yeah,
know, I just feel like that was orchestrated by the Lord. And then definitely the eclipse. Only he can control the movement of planets and moons and stars and stuff like that, and the
yeah.
sun. So, what were you gonna say?
Well, I mean, I have a few different things now because my mind just goes 5 million miles an hour when I'm talking about this kind of stuff because it's so exciting to me. Um, the other day I was prepping for a video and it talks about, I don't know, I think it was, you could probably correct me. I think it was Elder Anderson when he talked about the eclipse and how something as small as the moon could cover the sun. Does
I know Elder Stevenson talked about that
maybe it was Stevenson?
with President Monson, like how that eclipse happened on President Monson's birthday. I
And
think
it was the
that's
2017
yeah,
eclipse. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I was researching, and that popped up, and I just thought, I think I want to say it was, I don't know if it was recent again, but just how sometimes the smallest things cover up the sun, sun, but also the smallest things in our life can cover up the son, the son, the Son of God. And I think it's a sign that we need to be careful of what things are covering up Jesus Christ in our life. Even if it's the smallest thing, if we're holding it up too close to our eyes, it'll cover him.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that they keep stressing, that they've been stressing during President Nelson's presidency is distractions.
Yeah.
Basically idolatry, like spending too much time with sports or hobbies or worldly things or whatever, to where it starts to impact our spiritual lives. I think there's a major problem with that right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Um,
Yeah.
so well, I'm excited for your channel just to take off. It seems like it's already doing really well. What are some upcoming videos that you're thinking about doing?
Oh, I have started so many times trying to study like a deep dive into the Kirtland Temple dedication, that Doctrine and Covenants. Oh, what is it? What is it?
109.
109.
Hmm.
I was gonna say 110, but he quotes that one as well. But yeah, the 109, I feel going back to that topic, I feel like the Kirtland Temple is a huge player in the second coming because it restored those keys to gather Israel. And it seems so fitting. Anyway, that's one that I want to do a deep dive on. Um, I have a list. Oh, I don't know where my list is. That I every time I think of something, I'm like, oh, I'll just put that on the list. I do want to talk about the Book of Mormon, how the Book of Mormon is a key player in the gathering of Israel. Um, gathering, you're doing the Flood the Earth challenge. I that is so important. I feel like people really need to be in the Book of Mormon and seeing it through the eyes of um covenant Israel, the covenants that God made with the fathers. They talk about that all the time. Um, so that's one that I really want to do. Um, there's so many. There's so many. I do want to do a deep dive into Elder Holland's talk.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's
So
so much that you can pull out of that, I feel like. And are you gonna like keep on top of like current events? Is it mostly gonna be like looking at scriptures and talks, or are you also gonna be like talking about like, for example, the aurora or things like that that are happening?
yeah, I feel intimidated doing current events, honestly, because I feel like you and Jen do such a good job with it. It honestly kind of intimidates me because I feel like what more could I add? I know that there are things that I could add, um, but it just kind of intimidates me a little bit.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely. Like if if I feel passionate about something that is happening, then yes, for sure I will. Like I did one about Elder Holland's Instagram topic. And so anyway, yes, if I feel like passionate and called to study more and do a video, then yes, I will definitely.
I think you should because well, for example, me, Jen, also Troy, he's like my best friend on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, well, a lot of times we'll cover the same thing, but we all have like different uh perspectives on it or pull out different details. So I think you definitely should,
Yeah.
because this is like it's like a living, this is something that we're actually living through. And what I saw before I started my channel was there was a lot of focus on like past things, like past words of prophets,
Yeah.
prophecies, and occasionally people would talk about like current events, but it's like, yeah, we need to know prophecies, we need to know the scriptures, we need to know what the prophets are saying, but we also like need to like see what's actually
Yes.
happening. And just like such stunning such stunning things are happening right now. So I feel
I
like that's an important piece of it.
I agree. Something that's been on my mind the past, oh, I don't know, two or 3 days, I did a post about the two witnesses. I've talked to you extensively about this. Um,
Yeah.
but something that's been on my mind is that we are living in the latter days, right? These are the last days. We have a living prophet who is telling us so much information. And like you said, a lot of people are going to the past to look at right now, and it's like, but we're living in it right now. And one of the thoughts that came to mind in regards, I just barely today posted a video about the 10 tribes of Israel, because that seems like a hot topic in my comment section on that too.
Yeah, it is.
The thing that continually comes to my mind is I think when we focus too much on, well, are they are they separate, or are they a group, or whatever? I think it detracts from the actual importance of gathering Israel, which President Nelson is talking about. And the Spirit has continually throughout the past 2 days just said, when you focus too much on this, the gathering isn't happening. Because if they're focused on a huge group coming back, there's not much we can do about bringing a huge group of people. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
nothing we
right.
can do to bring that about. If there is a large group of people somewhere, right? God is going to have to do that. But the thing is we are asked right now by our current prophets and apostles to gather Israel on both sides of the veil. So that is through missionary work and temple work. And so I don't know, for some reason the Spirit is just like, if it is a group somewhere hidden, God will take care of that. I will take, if I'm receiving revelation from God, he's basically saying, I will take care of that if that's important, or if that's true, or whatever. But right now, you need to focus on gathering Israel here, because there is scattered Israel here throughout the world who people are searching for the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they need to be gathered in here.
And I feel
So
like that's just more urgency talk, because the mission of the church hasn't changed. There's like the threefold mission of the church, and it used to be framed like this: proclaim the gospel, or
redeem the saints.
proclaim the gospel, perfect the saints, redeem the dead,
Uh-huh.
PPR. But now it's still the same, but it's like more urgent. It's gather scattered Israel on both sides of the veil, and then become a Zion people.
Yeah,
Right? Becoming a Zion people is
absolutely.
important, because Zion is going to be built up. We need to be Zion when Christ comes. So it just like frames it a little bit different, to where it's like it's urgent.
Yeah,
So yeah, for
absolutely.
sure. Okay. Well, this was really good, Caitlin. Everybody,
Thank
please
you,
make sure
Jared.
to check her out. I'm going to put a link for her channel in the description box below. She's also on my featured channels. So I think she's going to do really good. She already is doing really good things. So I think that you'll like her content. But
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and make sure to share her channel, and I'll talk to you guys later. Did my mouse just die? No. Okay.